Okay, now you might have actually used ABS data before, but I just thought it might be useful to provide a bit of a quick overview of how I would use ABS data or Australian Bureau of Statistics, to get a richer understanding of your community. And it can actually it will confirm things that you already know, I guess, and that's important, but it can actually kind of highlight some issues, but also the way it can be useful is in terms of when you're applying for funding. Sometimes understanding the demographic nature of your community can be really, really useful. So if you just Google Australian Bureau of Statistics, this website will come up, but abs.gov.au, and basically it's not complicated. You basically just type in the name of your area. So if you type in, let's go with Rochester. Let's see what we can find out about Rochester. Now, obviously, you can find all sorts of information. Apparently there's a Mr. Rochester, but have a look and you'll see region data summary. But then you'll also see census quick stats. Now you can have a look at both of these, but often many towns have kind of a local area and then a broader region. So pay attention to what you're actually looking at. But if we were to have a look at Rochester, the quick stats, we can see what that encompasses here. So we can see the border of that here. Now, if you look at that and go, but hold on a minute, our catchment area is much bigger than that, then maybe go back and look at the broader area. So if we have a look, let's just blow this up so that you can see it. So we've got the basic kind of data of, we've got 48.5% male, 51.5% female. Average children per family 1.9. This is interesting, but it's really, really straightforward. The other thing is that if you don't know what the state or the country average is, it's all well and good saying, oh, there's only 1.9 kids here, that's low. In actual fact, it might be high in comparison to the rest of the state. Now, further down, you'll get some more information that will help you to sort that out. The private dwellings, so we're looking at 1,400 houses. This information is really useful when you want to do a letterbox drop, for instance. So you go, oh, okay, well, 1,500, that might actually be achievable through the, in terms of cost of doing a letterbox drop. Average people per house, the median income, all that kind of thing. Now, when you look here, what this will actually do is it will give you the ability to look at the differences, I guess, between your area and Victoria, but also more broadly in Australia. Now, we're not going to see any huge differences here, and you don't want to make too much of them. Obviously, males 48 to 51, which is slightly different to Victoria, and Victoria is more closely aligned with Australia. But we're not talking a big difference, so you wouldn't make anything of it. The age bracket, this can be really useful if you're looking at creating a childcare centre. You can get a sense of how many kids you've got coming through. Remembering that this data, and I can't remember where it puts it, but this is 2016 data, or it might be later. Anyway, so pay attention to what year the data is from. Things might have changed a little bit. Now, the further you go down, the more interesting it gets. So we've got marital status. So 51% are married. Now, again, when you have a look at it in comparison to the state average, that's pretty much the same. The schooling. So we've got quite a few different schools represented here. Highest attainment of education of people over 15. And so you have a look here, and let's have a look. We've got, start with bachelor degree level and above. We've got 7.6% in Rochester has a bachelor, right? So a bachelor's degree. Not to say that having a bachelor's degree is better than not having one, but in Victoria, the average is 24.3. And this is where the information's coming from about the education level in the regions. This has implications for the type of industry that can work in the regions, that kind of thing. If we have a look down here, so those who their highest level of education is year 10, we've got 15%, and then in Victoria it's only 7.8%. Okay, so that's interesting. That's kind of pretty much half the level that Victoria. Now, we know that this is the case in the regions, that education is lower in the regions, but these are interesting pieces of information. The surprise one for me in Rochester, those of you in Rochester, you might be able to speak more to this, but if we're looking at the ancestry, the background, we've got 368, how they managed to get two numbers the same, of Scottish background and 368 of German background, which represents almost 10% or 20% in total of the background. So obviously there's part of the history of Rochester obviously has some Scottish and Irish, and then also, quite a bit lower, some German there as well. It certainly begs the question for me, are there cultural artifacts left around in terms of, are there groups of, I don't know, Scottish things going on? So this, sometimes you'll find this information and go, wow, I didn't know that that was a thing here. Country of birth, New Zealand will usually show up fairly high, England, but also Italy and the Philippines and Scotland. So obviously, again, country of birth, so you've got, this might just be one family, but we've got some interesting stories there. Country of birth of father and mother, religious affiliation, this can be useful. So no religion, 26%, so roughly a quarter, 23% Catholic, so that's fairly high. Remembering that religious affiliation, you know, there are plenty of people that say that they're I guess of a particular religion, but then don't actually attend that particular religion. So, but that's where their affiliations lie. Language, Italian, Polish, Hindi. Okay, so we've got a bit of a diversity there, but not enormous. Employment, so full-time employment, work part-time, hours worked, occupation. So if we have a look here, we've got 16% are managers, 14% are labourers, and so we've got this really big spread of professionals, community service workers and personal workers, machinery operators. There's no real standout there, which I find quite interesting. When we look at the industry, we've got obviously cheese and other dairy product manufacturing, 74 people, dairy cattle farming, hospitals. Hospitals often play a really big role in communities in terms of employing, and that can be important to remember. The supermarket, 41 people, and secondary education. So that's quite interesting. Median weekly incomes, that's interesting. Travel to work. So 770 people drive to 777 people drive to work, which makes sense in Rochester. And a few 17 ride to work. Unpaid work, and you can see, you can dig in here for ages. Family composition, employment status of families, dwelling structure, number of bedrooms. There's all sorts of data here. Now, chances are that if you can't find if you live in a little town, you can't find your little town through ABS, you'll be able to find the broader area. So what this information does, and you would never make decisions purely based on this information, but it gives you a better understanding of the broad range of characteristics of the community that you're engaged with. Now, the way that I would approach this is I would spend a bit of time going through this and just note the things that surprise you, so the things that you didn't expect, because they would demonstrate kind of blind spots, I guess, in your view of your community, but also the points at which your community is vastly different from Victoria, because that actually shows, it doesn't necessarily show a weakness, but it shows a uniqueness about your community and a possible opportunity. So as you can see, you can just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. There's all sorts of things, but just go through and make note of those things, and then maybe report them back to the group, because I love numbers. I'm a stats guy, but these numbers can provide you some real insight into the things that you're seeing in the community, and that extra insight can really help you to develop really well-crafted projects. So I hope that's useful. Catch you later.